Okay, in this video we are going to be combining integers using number line models. And we're going to start with modeling integers that have the same signs, meaning that they are both positive integers or they are both negative integers. So you're definitely going to need your journal to take a few notes, and you're also going to need your models notes page to do examples. Let's get started. First thing I want you to do is in your journal, go ahead and draw a number line like you see below, and you're going to number it from -5 to +5. Then you're going to write the example 2 plus 3 equals and a blank line. Now we all know that 2 plus 3 equals 5. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to actually model this integer problem on our number line. Make sure that you pause the video as needed so that you can stay caught up with your note taking. Okay, here we go. Step number 1 is you're always going to start at 0. So you'll notice that a dot popped up above 0. It's not actually on the number line itself, it's a little bit above. When we're doing these models of combining these integers, we don't want it to sit on the number line. It needs to be just a little bit higher. Sometimes when you do it on the number line, it's hard to see. Okay, step 2 is that we're going to move to the right 2 units. Our first integer is a +2, and we know that positive is to the right of 0 on a number line. Since the number is a 2, we need to move 2 units to the right. And you'll notice that after moving 2 units to the right, there's a straight vertical line. This is what I call a stop line. Okay? So this shows from 0 to 2 is our first integer. And above the line, we have the number 2. And I like to write the integer that we're being modeled. This line segment here represents a +2. And with the +2, we're ready to combine it with 3. It is also positive. Because it is also positive, that means it is going in the right direction as well. So we can start at our stop line for the 2. We'll start there. We'll move 3 units, 1, 2, 3 units to the right, draw a stop line, and then draw a straight line, label it with your +3. And where our stop line is, where we stop or end up at, is the answer. So our answer is 5. 2 plus 3 equals 5, which we know is true. It's correct. Okay, now it's time for you to do some examples. So this is going to be in your class notes, on your class notes worksheet. And the first problem that we have is the first problem on your notes. It's 5 plus 3. Yes, we know 5 plus 3 equals 8, but we want to model it on the number line. And we want to make sure we use the 3 steps that you have written down in your journal. So step number 1 is you're going to start at 0. So above the number line at 0, you're going to place a dot. Our first integer is a +5. Make sure you're doing this on your number line as well. That means we want to move to the right 5 units. So I'm going to stop. I always like to draw my stop line first. I'm going to stop right here. So I draw my line, and I'm going to show that my first integer was a 5. My second integer is also positive. It's a +3. Since we're going in the same direction, which is to the right, and you can draw arrow lines if you want to show the direction. But since we're going to the right 3 units, we can continue on the same line. So 3 units would mean that I would stop right here because I would move 1, 2, 3 units. So let me draw my line, my arrow. Let me number this. This was the +3. And where I stopped at was at a +8. So 5 plus 3 equals 8. Okay, our next example is a -5 plus a -3. And on your page, this is actually the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th example. So you have to go all the way down to the 6th example, the one that says -5 plus -3. Okay, again, step 1 is you always start at 0. But this time, instead of being positive, our first integer is a -5, which means we need to move to the left because all negative numbers are to the left of 0 on a number line. So if I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left, I'm going to stop right here. So let me draw my line, horizontal line, with my arrow, and I'm going to label this as -5. And I'm going to combine that with a -3. So from my -5 where I stopped, I can continue on the same line because we're still going to the left. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 units. So I'm going to stop right here. So let me draw my line with my arrow. Label this as -3. So I've combined -5 and a -3 together, and where I stopped was at -8. So -5 plus a -3 equals a -8. Okay, last one. This one says -5 minus -3. And it's the 5th one on your model notes page. Okay, so again, we start at 0, put our dot above 0. We want to go -5 units, and it's going to be to the left. So here's my stop line, and I draw my horizontal line. Here's my -5. Okay, now this is a -3. Remember this subtracting, this is opposite. It's a opposite of a 3, which is a -3. This is another way to write -5 plus -3. You can write it as -5 minus 3, but you're doing the same thing. Sometimes we go and we circle the integers with their signs, and you can see we're combining a -5 with a -3. So I already got my -5, now I need to go 3 more negative units. So there's my stop line, here's my -3, and I ended at -8. So -5 minus 3 is going to be a -8. So now let's do models when we have different signs, meaning one is positive and one integer is negative. Okay, go back to your journal. Please write down 3 plus -2 as an example. Draw the number line below. You're going to number it from -5 to +5. And this time there are 4 steps. Okay, so there were 3 steps when we had same signs, and now there's 4 steps for different signs. Step number 1, you're going to start at 0, and you're going to move the number of steps that represents the first number. So I'm going to start at 0. My first number is a +3, so I'm going to move 3 units to the right. So there's my stop line, here's my arrow line, and that's a +3. Step number 2, place a point above the end of the line to determine the start of the new line. Okay, so if we were adding another positive, we would be continuing the same line because we would be going in the same direction. But we're combining our 3 with a -2, and negatives don't go to the right of 0, they go to the left. So to show that, where we stopped, right here at the 3 above it, we're going to start a new line, and this line is going to go to the left, and it's going to go 2 units. So if I go 1 unit, 2 unit, I'm going to stop right here. And this time my arrow is showing that I've moved to the left. And my integer is a -2. And I'm sorry, I missed the steps. Move the number of steps that the second number represents. Remember, positive is to the right and negative is to the left. And then step 4, the number where you end on is the answer. So we ended our second integer at 1. So 3 plus -2 equals a +1. Okay, going back to your number line model notes page, you're going to do some. Make sure as we do this, you're doing this in your notes. The first one is 5 plus -3, which is the second example on your notes page. So again, start at 0. +5 is our first integer, so we're going to move to the right 5 units. I'm going to draw my stop line, then I'll draw my arrow line, and this is going to be +5. To that we want to add a -3. Well, negative does not go to the right, so therefore we have to start a new line. So we're going to go above our first line, draw a dot where we stopped, and now we're going to go 3 units to the left. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to end right here. Draw my arrow line and show that this is -3. Then our answer is going to be where this second integer line, stop line is, and it is at a +2. So 5 plus a -3 is +2. Okay, our next one is 5 minus 3. That's the same as saying 5 plus a -3. We're combining it with a -3. So it's the same as our first example. So this is the third example on your notes page. We're going to start at 0, draw our dot. We want to go +5 units to the right. So there's my stop line. I draw my arrow line and label this as my +5. To that, I want to combine it with a -3. Negative does not go to the right, so we have to start a new line. So where we stopped with the 5, above it, we're going to start a new line and move 3 units to the left. Draw your stop line, your arrow line. Identify this as being -3. And we stopped at +2, so that is our answer. 5 minus 3 is 2. Okay, our next one is -5 plus 3, which is the next example on your sheet. We're going to start at 0. There's our dot. Our first integer is -5. So we need to go 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So draw my stop line and my arrow line. Label this as -5. And I'm going to combine a +3 with this. Since positive goes to the right, I'm going to start a new line. So above my -5, start a new line, and I'm going to move 3 units, 1, 2, 3, to the right. There's my stop line, draw my arrow line, and identify this as a +3. And where did I end up stopping at? -2. So -5 plus 3 equals a -2. So let's look at these two examples. These are the last two examples on your page. We have 5 minus a -3. Okay, we've talked about this already with the absolute value. This minus also means opposite. So what we're really saying is we're going to take 5, so start at 0. 5 is positive, it moves to the right. So draw your stop line, your arrow line. So I've moved +5 units to the right. And now I want to combine it with the opposite of -3. And what is the opposite of a -3? A +3. And positive still continues to the right, so we can stay on our same line and go 1, 2, 3 more units to the right. So I'm going to stop right there, draw my arrow line, and this is my opposite of a -3. And I ended up stopping at 8. So 5 minus a -3 equals 8. Let's do the last one here. So this is -5, so we're going to start at 0. Negative goes to the left, so we're going to move 5 units to the left. So this is where I'm going to stop. I'll draw my arrow line, and I'll label this -5. Now to that -5, I want to combine it with the opposite of a -3. Well, the opposite of a -3 is a +3. So remember, this is opposite. And positives go to the right, so I can't continue on this line. I have to start a new line. So above the -5 where I stopped, I'll start a new line, and it's going to be 3 units, 1, 2, 3 units to the right. So there's my stop line, draw the arrow line, and this is the opposite of a -3. And where did we stop at? -2. So -3 minus a -5 minus a -3 equals -2. And one more thing, you should be able to write an equation from models. An equation is something that has an equal sign. It's an operation with an equal sign and an answer. Okay, so looking at this, think about your steps of how you would draw a model on a number line. What is the first thing you would do? The first thing you would do is start at 0. So here's my 0, this is my first line. And how many units is the first line? It's 4 going to the left, which means it is a -4. Then I have a line above it that goes to the right. So if we're going to the right, that means it is a positive integer. And how many units does it go? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes 5 units. And it stops at a +1. So when you write your equation, you're going to start with your first line, the lower line, so it's -4. To that we added 5, and our answer was 1. So -4 plus 5 equals 1. That is the equation for the model below.